Good morning and welcome to Ag Talkin' Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Alright, so yesterday, I got home from the Philippines yesterday, and first thing I did was turn on my phone, because when you're in the Philippines, this little idiot box doesn't work very well. You have to have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi over there is unreliable at best. Unless you're a Filipino, then you just pay for data, and that, or you pay for, they call it load na dito, and with that load, it's very expensive, and then at that point you can pretty much use your internet anywhere like you do here in the United States. Just a very different system. To pay for your load, it's good for 3 days, whether you use it or not. And I mean, if you have $10,000, want to buy $10,000 worth of load, you could do that, and then 3 days later it expires if you don't use it all, and the phone company takes your money for free. That was really a good idea on their part. I need to run a company like that. That sounds a little bit like extortion. Like, give us your money, we'll allow you to use this thing for like 3 days, but if you don't use it all up in 3 days, we'll just take it. And then if you don't use it, your fucking phone won't work. But, you know, that sort of thing. So, that's why you kind of know how much load you need when you go. I just opt to wait for a Wi-Fi service, whether it be free or whether it's at the house. Now, the Wi-Fi service at the house, like I said, is unreliable at best. My phone tells me all the time that your password is wrong for that one, but then it'll hook up automatically when the signal's good. But that's neither here nor there. But yesterday, I turn on my phone, and it goes bring, and a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't get while I was away pops up. It's kind of cool. It's like, hello, welcome home. Now, here's all the stuff that you missed while you were away. Well, someone had sent me a link. Well, he didn't send me a link. They asked me a comment. What did I think about Michael Bloomberg disrespecting farmers? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I didn't hear anything about this. And, because I was on the other side of the world in a place where they really don't give a shit about Michael Bloomberg. And honestly, I don't either. I think he's a moot subject. Anybody that votes this asshat in votes for this asshat is just as dumb as this guy is here. And when I say dumb, I had to find the video, and I couldn't find it, so I contacted a person that sent me the question, and I said, hey, do you think you could send me a link to that? And he sent me two links. So I watched the first one, and I'm like, this doesn't pertain to what I'm asking about. It was Devin Nunes sitting in front of a bunch of tractors, and he is, if you don't know who Devin Nunes is, he is actually California senator, Republican. He sat, every time he's in front of a press conference or whatever, does a television show, he sits in front of a collection of antique John Deere and other manufactured tractors like IH. I think there was a Massey Ferguson, and definitely an Alice Chalmers WD of some sort back there. So I was like, well, that's neat. And they were talking about these comments, and then the next link brought me to what he had said back in 2016. So what Michael Bloomberg said was, and he was generalizing, and I think that's how most people feel about farmers. You dig a hole, you put the seed in, you cover it up with dirt, you put water on it, and up comes the corn. No problem with that generalization of the act of farming. It, in essence, is the rawest explanation that you can come up with for growing a seed. Unfortunately for Mr. Bloomberg, he couldn't find his way across a barnyard, let alone plant a field of corn, and if he had to rely on his own skill set to grow enough food to, feed his family and possibly, a couple of others, he would fail miserably, wither away, and die. That's why I say that he's kind of stupid. Because there is a lot more involved in growing that corn, if you're going to grow corn. And what would he do with corn anyway? He probably doesn't even understand what the product of corn is actually used for. He's probably thinking in the back of his mind, well, I don't eat that much corn anyway, so what in the hell is such a big deal? He doesn't realize that it goes into, fuel and animal feeds, and a very small percentage of it actually makes its way to the kitchen table or the dining room table of families across the country and the world. So that's why I think he's kind of dumb on that point. But that's not the problem. That's okay. It's neither here nor there. I don't care what he said about digging a hole, putting the seed in, covering it with dirt, waiting for rain, and up comes the corn. My problem is when he talks about the technology, the technology, and how it takes a little more gray matter gray matter, meaning the brain, to be in the technology or economic world of that with which we live. So I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, this guy again strikes out really bigly. I can use the word bigly, big league, or bigly, or just he strikes out miserably. He fails terribly in this part of technology, because the funny thing about digging that hole, putting in the seed, covering up with dirt, and waiting for water or adding water, and up comes your corn, is there is a very, very, there's very vague. There's a whole lot more. Any of the farmers that watch this will know that is a very vague description of how to actually get that seed to get going. There is a lot more involved in that. Now, we won't get into no-till, we won't get into tillage, we won't get into deep tillage, we won't get into the different types of fertilizers, whether you're organic or whether you're a commercial fertilizer, user of sorts. What we'll get into is the technology side of it. Unbeknownst to Mr. Bloomberg, that agriculture is actually much more technologically advanced than what 99% of people realize. I mean, when you talk to somebody, now I have a unique situation in YouTube world, because I actually farm in New Jersey, and there's only a few of us here, a few farmers here that still farm in this garden state. It's hard to make a living here, in agriculture. And when you speak to people like Mr. Bloomberg or his constituents, the people that vote for him, and believe me, I live, like 45 miles from New York City, so you get them. They're here every day. I have a next door neighbor. She lives in New York City. She wouldn't know how to grow a daisy, let alone a field of corn. She may think she knows, and this is no disrespect to her. It's just a cold hard fact. They think that farmers sit in tractors that don't even have air conditioning. We're too stupid to have to buy machines with air conditioning in it, And when they do get into the cab of one of my old tractors, because honestly, the newest tractor I have is 2009, and they're that old, 2008, 2009 era tractors. Those are the newest ones that I have. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, they do have air conditioning. And, it's like, oh, it has air conditioning. It's like, yeah, and it'll steer itself. When you say that these tractors will steer itself, their eyeballs, could you imagine? I mean, their eyeballs get like this, two of them, clunk, What? It'll steer itself? Like, yeah, it's what you call Green Star ready. My tractor's the 7810 is Green Star ready. 8120, the 40, the 7530, 8530. They're all Green Star ready. Those things are, you just plug it in and bada bing, bada boom, off you go. It'll connect to the satellite. You set your parameters and off you go, and it will keep a straight line. You can actually do wavy lines with these things if you know how to run the computer correctly. And if you want a more in-depth description of steering tractors, if you're watching this, go to Millennial Farmers channel. Millennial Farmer. Zach has explained this, and also how Farms works. Now, how Farms works is using a different type of a GPS system or a steering system that goes on their steering wheel, which I thought, wow, that's great for, say, the 60 series, the 55, 40, 30 series tractors that have, cabs and stuff that were before the auto steer and guidance systems. Well, when you say that you have guidance, they're thinking you're fucking crazy. There's no way that these tractors have guidance. You're nuts. And then you point to the little button that has a little steering wheel there, and you're like, oh yeah, when there's a little transponder that's up on the top there, and it connects with a satellite, and you set your A/B line, and you set your A/B line, and I've used it. I've used a Trimble system for nearly 20 years. I used Trimble. Up until I quit growing corn. I do still use my Trimble system. It's not an auto steer system, but it is a GPS. I never bought the auto steer unit for the finger pincher type. I use that to plant corn with, and I will use it again to plant corn this spring when I plant. I'm going to plant a couple 300 acres of corn. You heard me right. I have some hay fields that are really kind of petered out, and they just need to have that crop rotated. Just needs to be rotated. I got to change a lot it just needs to be rotated, So, and corn is a good way of doing that. I can take and plant the corn, cut the fodder off, bale the fodder, sell the grain, sell the fodder, and then and it's all within a time frame in which I can work and get frost seeding. I want to frost seed Timothy, or even drill Timothy into this corn, because I just think that it would work really well. Even though I'm going to cut the fodder off, I'll still have this much stalk material left, and that'll keep it from it'll just calm the wind down and keep it from drying out. If it does, in the event that it does come up and we have a dry spring, so it'll help that there. Or I just rotate it back into corn again, because I really miss growing corn. So when Mr. Bloomberg is talking about this technology, he said that it involves more gray matter, meaning more brain, and I've already covered this, I know. But he is wrong. In 1976, my grandparents bought a New Holland TR70 combine. And in that 1970 or 1976 TR70 combine, there was a computer. It was an analog, which you would call an analog computer. Basically, it was magnetic eyes that ran on that had pickup, which was a pickup to a disk, which is a system that is still used today in very complex machinery, including the Krone baler, New Holland balers, and things like that. Combines are still using that analog style computer, and we're talking 1976. That combine came out in 1974, I believe. And if you can find a 1974, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 80, 1980 car that had a computer in it that was even remotely close to the technology that was in farm equipment at that point, good luck, So, and these are just very general computers. They're so simple that, to today's standard, they probably wouldn't even consider them a computer, even though they were a computer. But through the 1980s and into the 90s, computer technologies in agriculture had advanced huge. We could count individual rows of seed corn with a Dickie John seed cleaner or seed monitor, row monitor, and I remember watching that little thing going tick 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 as the seeds go through, because my dad used it. I never used a seed monitor. I'll be 100% honest here. I never felt the need to use the row monitors. Today probably would be a smart idea to do it, but I was the type of guy that would plant 4, 8, 12 rows, stop at the end, get out, walk the 4 rows, make sure everything's planting correctly, and get on with the day. Now, with the Dickie John, at that time, you could, excuse me, I had some snot that needed to be sucked, as my mom would say, quit sucking snot, But anyway, to get your populations correct, to get that 32,000 plant or 36,000 plant population that we can use here in Kingwood Township. A lot of guys don't even go that high, or years ago, nobody's growing corn in my area anymore. Timmy Cornpicker does on a very limited scale, but I don't think he's anywhere close to what 35,000 plant population. Just because he's using old corn pickers, and if you get the, push that corn to 200 bushels an acre, I don't think he's got a gear low enough in his tractor to actually pick it. And I've seen Tim grow some pretty nice corn. I know that if there's some people in this area that watch my channel, they're going to be like, Tim, yeah, that guy couldn't grow corn to save his life. Tim has a very different philosophy on farming. He's a very laid-back fellow. I like Tim very much. I'm not in any way disrespecting him. Sometimes it can come off as an arrogant prick, but not when it comes to my friends and neighbors. I try to be pretty, I don't know, acceptable, I love everybody. I really do like people. I even like people that don't like me. I mean, I had a very good long-term friendship with a fellow that lives right up here, and he no longer wants to talk to me. But I think there's a lot more to it than that. I don't think it's his choice. I think it's his wife and his brother's choice, which I wish he would just pull his head out of his ass and tell them that, you guys need to grow up. This is business. And what the fight is over is, it's not even a fight. I still consider him my friend. I just need him to pony up and be a bit of a man and understand what really is the problem. There's no problem on my end. The problem's on his end. Now there comes the arrogance, which it isn't arrogance. It's just, and Timmy knows the story, and so does everybody else in the area, and they think that he really needs to stop it. It was foolish, but you know what? It's okay. I don't have time to sit and talk on the telephone all day anyway, and I used to talk to him pretty near every day. But there's another farmer down the road there. They're older guys, and they're about the same age as him. They might be about 8-10 years older than him. And they felt that I was a threat to them. And I did pick up some ground in their area where they farmed. And the one brother, he didn't like what I was doing. He's like, oh, he's going to take over the world. Well, I might take over the world. I'm the younger generation. And you're going to get old, and one of these days you're not going to be able to do the things you want to do. And farming is one of those things you're going to want to, put to the wayside because, physically you just can't do it. And I like those guys. We always had a good relationship with them, and I don't know, whatever. It's called business. Oh, my mom says it's 10. The funeral's 10 o'clock today, and I cannot be late. Okay, it's 8 o'clock now. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I guess I should probably get myself into the cleanest pair of jeans that I own, and the nicest flannel shirt that I can find, and a different Freddy Krueger hat, because I just don't feel that that's quite my style. I mean, I like this hat, I do. I like it. I think it fits me just fine, but it just isn't quite what I wear on a regular basis. But so anyways, when it comes down to the technologies in agriculture, I think that Mr. Bloomberg would be, I don't think he would understand it, for one thing. I really don't think he would understand it. When you get down to the chemistry part of what we do, and, he's thinking old MacDonald had a farm. That's what he's thinking. And even old MacDonald had technologies that most people didn't know about. But Mr. Bloomberg thinks that old MacDonald had a farm is how the corn is grown, and how the beans are grown, how the wheat's grown, how the peanuts, and how the rice, how the, whatever crop you're growing, how animals are I guarantee you, if you took him to a beef farm and put him to the cattle chutes, not in them, but went to the cattle chutes and watched a grading process, he would be like, I don't understand this at all. Because if you've ever graded cattle, and this, you guys that don't know much, I mean, there's different grades. You grade cattle on their posture, just their body mass, body scores, and all that stuff. And we did that. I did that with the dairy when we were milking cows. And to produce the maximum amount of, say, beef or milk, you can take 100 animals and score them into 5 different categories. Good, bad, cull, to keep, for breeding stock, for, whatever. There's just different production rates, different grading. And I think Mr. Bloomberg would benefit a lot by actually educating himself. Not that I would ever vote for this ass clown. I mean, to me, he just thinks he can buy the world and in which we live, buy the world in which we live, and dictate how things are. And Donald Trump, I got to tell you, Donald Trump sometimes can be like out there. Still going to vote for him. Donald's mouth runs sometime faster than his brain, and but in the end, you can say what comes out of whatever comes out of your mouth is one thing, but your actions actually prove the man and your worth. So if you say, I was watching a little bit of the news this morning. It was talking about John Kerry violating the Logan Law. I don't know what the Logan Law is. I really don't. I don't know whether John Kerry even knows what the Logan Law is either. He probably does. He probably is old enough to have written it to his advantage because that's how politics work. But when it comes down to it, Donald Trump said, you know what, I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall. Well, if you're crazy, you'd think that Donald is going to be out there digging the hole, welding the steel, pouring the cement, and building the wall, which smart people with a little more gray matter really understand that Donald Trump is the leader of the United States of America, whether you like him or not. And when he says he's going to build a wall and he wants to get it done, he's going to get it done. And I know there's some people out there that don't think that he's actually getting the wall built, but he is getting the wall built. He is starting in the old sections of the wall because there are areas of our southern border that you cannot cross. There's cliffs, rivers. They talk about the what the heck is the name of that river? What the hell's in it? The Rio Nevada, right? Rio Grande. The Rio Grande River. That thing's treacherous as hell. You cannot get across it, and there's a lot of dead people because of that river, and there's no need to build a wall there. So generally where there is a wall or is some kind of a border fence, those border fences were failures 25 years ago because I'm 47 years old. I've watched politics for over 20 years. I started in high school looking at it thinking, God, this is crazy, And every president from 1990 to today, with the exception of Donald Trump, said, need to build a bigger wall. Got to do it. It's going to be 10 feet tall. It's going to have barbed wire on it, And when Bush said that, Mr. Bush, he says that he's going to build a wall that's 10 feet tall. What'd they say? The Mexicans will come with an 11-foot ladder. They'll put it to the wall and jump over it, and that's the way it is. So, and in defense of Donald Trump, and the wall needs to be built in the areas where there were border walls or fences because they're old, they're dilapidated, and they just don't work. Just drive 12 miles to our east. That's Flemington. It's a sanctuary town city. It's not a city yet. They don't call it a city, but it's Flemington, which is our county seat. And when you go to the middle of that thing, you might think you're in Cuba. You really might think you're in Cuba. Now, it's a nicer Cuba. I mean, there's still law and order there, but there are gang members there, MS-13 gang members there. It's known that they're there, and they came across a border that had no fence or wall. So get the wall built, and he's doing it. And when he has opposition against, it just takes determination and the know-how to get around some of Congress because, it's political talking points for them. They want to get reelected. 4 years ago, they're like, Hillary's going to get elected and we'll build a wall. Then they'd have rolled out some wire and allowed their voting base to come in over the wire, give them amnesty, free clothes, housing, food, and, your kid's job. And you will... you'll get a voter for life. They'll be Democrats for life, and you'll always have an office. But they're finding out that the people that came in legally, the legal way, like my wife did, they ain't liking that so much. They're like, you know what? Why did it cost me $4, $5, $6, $8, $10, $12, $20,000 to come to the United States? Why? Why did it? Why did I have to go through this rigmarole and then actually have to go and take a test to become a United States citizen, whereas if I'd have just took a plane ticket to Guatemala, walked or rode 1,000 miles possibly getting raped and other murdered and or used as drug mule. I get to come in for free and get a citizenship about every 10 years. Somebody does the amnesty. I know Carter did it. I believe Reagan did it. I know Clinton did it. And I believe even George Bush did some amnesty crap in there. And to people who, honestly, they don't belong here. They need to be rounded up, put on a train or a bus. Don't give them a plane ticket. If you give them a plane ticket, give them a parachute. You don't even have to land there. Because you know what? These people, these countries, up until a year or so ago, they wouldn't take their people back. They're like, no. They're yours now. They left this country. We don't want them. They're criminals. What the hell do we want to do with them? So that was part of the work that this president has done to keep us safe, is to, hey guys, we give you a lot of money, in foreign aid, even though we're like pretty near neighbors. We're distant neighbors, and we give you a lot of money in foreign aid, and you're really sending us your crappiest people. We don't want your crappiest people. We want people that are going to contribute to our society, not suck off the tits of our society. And I don't think Mr. Bloomberg knows this. I think that he doesn't care. He runs a newspaper. He's a gazillionaire. It doesn't matter to him. He just wants to say, I was the president of the United States of America, and I hate lesbians and horse-faced whatever, and all these crazy things that he said. And I am guilty of those things as well, but I'm not running for president or any political office for that matter. I once posted a picture of Adolf Hitler when the township was trying to pass a law that if you were hunting along, if your land bordered township property, that you couldn't hunt within 100, you couldn't put a deer stand within 150 feet of that said property line, which violates my property rights as a property owner, because sometimes we have hunters and sometimes we want them to be on those borders. Now, there are already laws in place for the problem that they were trying to solve, and that problem was, we want to put a walking trail here and the property line is here, but if this hunter is here, he could accidentally kill this person. Well, no. If the property line is here and he puts his deer stand here and there's a walking trail here, hunter doesn't want to be there anyway. He really doesn't, because he doesn't want people disturbing him or her while he's out in the woods. And it would be illegal for him to shoot in this direction unless he had a permit to hunt on the property. But it would be illegal for him to shoot in this direction. So if Joe Schmuck, or Joe, average Joe park goer is walking up the trail and they see this hunter in the tree, it is illegal for this person to harass this man. It is illegal for this man to harass this person. It is also illegal for this person to shoot into that town property. And it is perfectly legal for him to be on the line, because that is private property, and it is legal for him to shoot into the property in which he is residing on or renting or whatever for that stuff. So, it's crazy. I am not going to be running for public office. I don't think I ever would anyway. I mean, if I did, I'm too raw. If I was up at the township building and one of these idiots come in from, say, Mr. Bloomberg's neck of the woods and says, I've got a problem. I never used to have to pay for this, that, and the other thing, so why doesn't the township pay for it? I would be like, well, pack your stupid shit up and your stupid ass up and go back to New York City or wherever the hell it is you came from if you don't like the way it is here. Or they go down to they go to the police station. There was a tractor in the road, and he was only going 25 miles an hour, and I was late getting my little girl to ballet practice. I'd be like, well, sorry about your luck, There's like a really beautiful green area, and the farmers in the area, all of us that are here, kind of keep it nice and clean and beautiful so that you have these beautiful views. The reason you came here in the first place. Give them a break. But that's just me. So anyways, when it comes down to technology and Mr. Bloomberg needs an education. He would do well to go out and get that education on his own before he runs his midget mouth and just pisses off a pretty good voter base. Quite honestly, the voter base that he is targeting is what the voter base that really got Donald Trump elected, like the midsection of the country, midsection, and yeah, midsection, the farmers, the coal workers, the coal miners, steel workers, auto workers, and all those guys. You keep pissing them off, you ain't got a chance. So, anyways, thanks for watching.